The New York Knicks are named after a character in a book that the people who named them never read. Not a nickname from a player, not a tribute to a local hero, but a half-remembered reference to a Dutch settler stereotype from Washington Irving's A History of New York, a satirical work published in 1809 under the pen name Diedrich Knickerbocker. The men running Madison Square Garden in 1946 thought it sounded vaguely New York, vaguely historical, and short enough to fit in a newspaper headline. That was the entire rationale. The Knicks were not founded by basketball people. They were founded by Ned Irish, a sports writer turned promoter who had spent the 1930s booking college basketball doubleheaders at Madison Square Garden and making more money than the colleges themselves. When the Basketball Association of America launched in 1946, Irish saw an opportunity to fill garden dates between hockey games and boxing matches. He applied for a franchise not because he loved basketball, but because he owned the building and needed to book it year-round. The league granted him a charter membership on June 6, 1946. Irish had a team. He did not have a name. The naming process was not a focus group or a public contest. It was Irish and a few Madison Square Garden executives sitting in a room, throwing out words that felt appropriately New York. Someone mentioned Knickerbockers, the term Irving had used to describe the old Dutch families of New Amsterdam. The name had been used before. The New York Knickerbockers were a semi-professional baseball team in the 1840s. And Knickerbocker had been slang for New Yorker for over a century. It was recognizable without being tied to any existing professional team. Irish approved it. The team became the New York Knickerbockers, immediately shortened to Knicks because nobody wanted to say 5 syllables every time they wrote a box score. The first season was chaos. The Knicks played their inaugural game on November 1st, 1946, against the Toronto Huskies at Maple Leaf Gardens. They won 68-66. Nobody in New York cared. The team's home opener at Madison Square Garden drew fewer than 8,000 fans in a building that could hold 18,000. The league itself was a mess. Of the 11 teams that started the 1946 season, 4 folded before it ended. The Knicks survived, mostly because Irish didn't need them to make money. He owned the building. The team was overhead, not investment. The turning point came in 1950, when the Basketball Association of America absorbed the National Basketball League and became the NBA. The Knicks were suddenly in a more stable league with better talent. They made the finals in 1951, losing to the Rochester Royals, then again in 1952 and 1953, losing both times to the Minneapolis Lakers. The Knicks became competitive not through shrewd drafting or trades, but because Madison Square Garden was the most prestigious venue in American sports, and players wanted to perform there. By the mid-1950s, the Knicks were an established franchise, not because of their name or their early success, but because they played in a building everyone wanted to see. The franchise's first championship didn't come until 1970, nearly a quarter century after Irish sat in a room and picked a name he barely understood. By then, nobody remembered why they were called the Knicks, and nobody particularly cared. The name had stuck not because it meant something, but because it sounded like New York, and that was enough. Next time, we head to the NBA again, to a team whose name was chosen by a child.